Welcome back, Geos406 students. So this is a very short video to help you get oriented and acquainted with how you're going to do your homework modules in this class. So your first module is going to be estimating silicate melt and magma viscosities using a VFT model. And what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to give you a big lengthy lecture on viscosity again. I'm just going to basically walk you through how to use these PowerPoint slides and how to set up and solve for the models you're going to be using in this module and then in the subsequent modules in this class. So these modules are based upon the physical volcanology collection that was developed by Chuck Connor. He's a volcanology professor at the University of South Florida. I've modified some of these modules to put in my own content as well, but they're going to be either based on the work of Chuck Connor or they're going to be a hybrid. And in a couple cases, most of the content will be my own. Okay, so these modules will present calculations that you'll solve for different physical volcanology problems. And there's a table of contents usually that points you to the different parts of this module. So what I would like you to do is read through the PowerPoint slides completely to get the background and to get the lay of the land before you get started with your models and your module calculations. So this module, you're going to be looking at calculating the viscosity of a rhyolite melt and a magma with varying temperature, water content, and crystal content. So these modules present some background. I've already lectured on viscosity, so you can review the basics here again, and you can also review your viscosity lecture. So more background information, similarly background information. We set up the question of why would we care about estimating magma viscosity. So magma viscosity is incredibly important for determining eruption style, lava flow length, and a lot of the hazard and risk issues associated with volcanoes resulting from different eruption styles. So background information that you'll want to review. And so the Arrhenian model is something that I did not mention in your prior lecture. So one way you can model viscosity of a magma is through an Arrhenius relationship. Viscosity is highly dependent on temperature. So an Arrhenian model of viscosity is one where viscosity exponentially depends upon temperature, according to this equation here, where you have viscosity as a function of temperature is equal to standard viscosity at some standard temperature conditions, and then you have an exponential with activation energy and the ideal gas content and temperature. But Arrhenian models, even though they're simple, don't usually work for most magmas. So in this module, you're going to use what's called a Vogel-Volcker-Tamin, or VFT equation. This is a non-Arrhenian model of silicate melt viscosity that you can fit using constants that are determined from lab experiments. And this model is really great because it incorporates not only temperature, but also water content. And we know that water can really determine, can really change your silicate melt viscosity, as I discussed in lecture, because it breaks up the polymerized SiO chains in your silicate melt. So A, B, and C are constants that are determined again from lab experiments. The equation shows viscosity, log viscosity in this case, varying with temperature and water content according to this equation. So we also talked in the prior lecture about how magma's viscosities also vary strongly as a function of crystal contents. So in this homework module, you're going to add some theoretical crystals, and based on this Einstein-Roscoe equation, you're going to estimate how the viscosity of your magma is going to vary depending upon the volume fraction of crystals you add. So in this case, viscosity of your magma is equal to the initial viscosity of just the melt times 1 minus phi divided by phi naught to the minus 5/2 exponent. It's an exponential equation. Phi is the volume fraction of crystals you'll add to your magma. Phi naught is the maximum packing of the crystals when that magma starts to freeze up. So in this problem set, you're going to calculate the viscosity of a rhyolite melt starting with 2.8% water and 900 degrees Celsius, and then you're going to add 0.03 volume fraction of crystals. But you're also going to explore some different cases of rhyolite melt viscosity varying as a function of different water contents and different temperatures as well. So you're going to use a form of the VFT model to solve the problem. And you're going to explore viscosity variations as a function of water content, temperature, and volume fraction of crystals. So you're going to implement this VFT equation to solve for these different parameters. You're going to give your answer in Pascal seconds, which is a typical unit of viscosity used by volcanologists. And you're going to go through a series of calculations, and I'm going to walk you through how to do that. So first, the model form of the VFT equation you're going to use is based on Hessen-Dingwall, 1996. The citation of this paper is given here. The form of the equation that they fit for is given here, and what they did was they did a series of lab experiments where they melted a rhyolite, they put in different fractions of water, they changed the temperature, and then they observed the change in viscosity that resulted. From that, they derived these different coefficients of their model that you can apply now in this homework set to basically calculate the viscosities of the rhyolite melt based on their empirical model. So their non-Arrhenian viscosity model is the log of viscosity is equal to the constants A1 and A2 times the natural log of the concentration of water in weight percent times the constants B1 plus B2 times the natural log of the water content, divided by temperature minus C1 plus C2 times the natural log of the water content. You're given the values of these coefficients here in this box. These are the ones you're going to use for your model calculations. Next, you're going to add crystals to your model, and you're going to use this modified form of the Einstein-Roscoe equation. You're going to assume the crystals are spherical, which is not a great assumption for magmas. Most crystals in magmas are actually elongate, and they're definitely not spheres. But it's easier to model spherical packing, so that's what you're going to use here as an estimate. You're going to be given a maximum packing fraction of the solid, phi naught, of 0.6. So that's 60% crystals, and that's when the whole system locks up and cannot move anymore. Okay, so you're going to need to create a model spreadsheet where you can calculate the VFT model for your rhyolite magma. You can use Excel, you can use Google Sheets, you can use any other spreadsheet program that you like that allows you to enter formulas and calculate and then plot graphs based upon your calculated models. If you need help with this, just ask me and I can help you. I've had students successfully use Google Sheets as an alternative to Microsoft Excel. So if you need help, just ask me and I'll help you. I'll help you out with this. So you're going to set up your spreadsheet to look something like this. Please put your name on the name of the spreadsheet when you submit it so that I can keep track of who's submitted what. You're going to enter the coefficients of the VFT model, and here's an example of how you can do that. Oops. It's really nice to color code the cells. Constants in this case get a green color. That helps you keep track of what are constants that you're inputting into your calculations versus cells that you're going to have an output versus cells that you're going to change the values in. So here are your constants for the VFT model. Here's the maximum packing fraction of the crystals. You're going to be given initial conditions. Temperature in Kelvin is 1173. Water content and weight percent is 2. Initial volume fraction of crystals in your first magma calculation will be 0.03. So you're going to use the equations on slides 13 and 14 to calculate the melt viscosity and then the bulk magma viscosity. Your first series of calculations should look like this. The log of the melt viscosity based on the VFT equation on slide 13 is going to be in this format. You can check your initial answer that you get from your spreadsheet against this one to make sure you're on the right track. So the log viscosity is given as the exponent of a law of viscosity as 10 to that exponent. So in this case, 10 to the 5.373. To estimate the melt viscosity as its whole number, not an exponential notation, you can raise 10 to the 5.373 power and you'll get this number right here. You'll use equation 14 to calculate the magma viscosity given an initial volume fraction of crystals of 0.03. You'll get a number that looks something like this. So set up your spreadsheet, do these initial calculations, and check your formulas to make sure that you duplicated the values that are shown. So this is just a really nice way to set it up and check to make sure you're on the right track before you do the more complicated calculations that we'll be asking you to do. So the second set of calculations, you're going to be asked to vary water content and you're going to be asked to vary temperature. And then you're going to be asked to vary crystal content. So when you go through and so at this point, what I'd like you to do is after you've read through all of the slides, you'll be given a Word document that gives you the homework problems, the steps and the questions that I'll be asking you to do and solve. It's in the course materials area of Blackboard in this Module 1 folder. So pull that Word document out. It's going to tell you all of the different calculations you need to make and all of the different graphs you need to produce. Then you can refer to this slide once you get started with those additional calculations where you vary water content and temperature to start, and then crystal content. You're going to set it all up so that your formulas are calculating the log of melt viscosity first as a function of water content and temperature. Then you're going to make plots. You're going to plot log of viscosity versus water content first. So I have this example slide here so that once you get going on the additional calculations in your homework module, you can check your results and you can check to make sure that your log melt viscosities look right. You've coded the formulas in properly. You're getting the correct log viscosities out. And then you can check here to make sure that your graph looks right before you embark on additional calculations. Okay, so after the example problem setup in these module PowerPoints, there's just some additional background information and some links to references and papers for further reading. So you can use this information to help you better understand the whole background of the problem set that you're creating, as well as the equations you use in the processes and how it applies to volcanoes. All right, so how to get started. So first thing, I'd like you to read the module PowerPoint files completely. Before you do anything, read them through completely. Write down any questions you have. Next, go to Blackboard again in that course materials area in the module folder and read the accompanying Word document completely. It'll explain the assignment and all of the calculations you need to perform, not just the example calculations shown in the module PowerPoint. You can start setting up your spreadsheet at this point and ask me if you need help with Excel, Google Sheets, or any of the other platforms that you might use to calculate your homework problem set. If you want to code in Python or in MATLAB, that's fine too, but I need to be really clear. This is not a programming class. I'm not going to help you with your coding. I only want to see you use those tools to complete your homework assignment, and you'll need to make it really clear to me in your code what parameters you used, and your output graphs and your output numbers need to be really clear and labeled and consistent. Attend the Google Chat module session for help. So we're going to have Google Chat sessions during this class. The schedule will be posted once I get the class organized at the start of the semester. So check the calendar, show up, and ask for help. I will be there. I'll be happy to help you. I can embed video, I can embed slides, I can do a lot with Google Chat to help you along your way. You can also reach out by email. So then Once you get all set up and you get your spreadsheet and you're calculating your modules, complete your homework and you're going to turn in the following things. I want to see your spreadsheet with all of the coded formulas and calculations and graphs embedded in that sheet. I need to actually see your coded formulas so I can figure out if you made calculation errors and help you and provide comments. So submit your real worksheet. Don't submit just a saved image. If you do, I won't be able to actually give you a complete grade, and I'll ask you to submit your coded formulas anyway. I'd like to also see your written answers. So these are questions from the Word document. You can write them in a text document, or you can clearly label them in a separate sheet in your spreadsheet. If you use Google Sheets, you can just share your sheet with me as a link, and that works just fine. And then, as always, ask for help. Okay, good luck and have fun.